Hello everyone, I'm Ben, MD at Grey Hair Works, and welcome to another Thursday Tea Time at 3:30. Today we're joined by the Head of Digital Centre of Excellence at Danone, along with two solutions from our portfolio, the founder of Percept and the MD of Promotigo. Once again, Alex is pushing buttons in the background and here to help if I go rogue. As always, a quick shout out to our sponsors Investec, Lewis Silkin and Hayes McIntyre, who are standing by to give you free advice on legal, financial and wealth management. The past 18 months have compounded the challenges businesses face when looking to drive commercial success with innovative external solutions. Brand and business executives are attacked by sales monsters trying to connect, then sell to them, largely using language that's mostly gibberish and jargon. And if you start to look for potential vendors, it's almost impossible to see what's relevant, especially when solution landscapes are as navigationally helpful in the real world as a Game of Thrones Westeros map. Businesses want to innovate, yet need to deliver. And traditionally, innovating is something done after your day job. But there are gems in the rough, and businesses can turn to innovative external solutions from proven scale-ups, especially when they're pre-curated by those who've cut their teeth in industry, like some of our younger grey-haired associates you can see here. Whilst we've referenced this McKinsey slide before, COVID has been one of the biggest change drivers we've seen in modern times. And a behaviour change we see persisting is the desire to explore new expertise, resources and approaches. But we are seeing an increased commitment to pursue the opportunities that come from the changes we've all been subjected to. No more so than the opportunity that comes with D2C and e-commerce. So with so many brands launching and accelerating their work in this space, who better to ask for tea than Anastasia from Danone? Having worked in big organizations like P&G and Unilever and privately owned companies operating in the retail and fashion industry, Anastasia is the Head of Digital Centre of Excellence for Danone Specialised Nutrition, easy for me to say, leading the digital transformation, orchestrating the launch of direct-to-consumer channels, amongst many other things, of course. Anastasia, how are you doing? You're on mute.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So just to start with D2C being prioritized by so many, could you just talk us through why it is now so important to brands like Danone?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about our journey and how we ended up launching our D2C at Danone SN last year. So it was March. It was the beginning of the pandemic and the beginning of the lockdown. And if you remember, we have been experiencing some serious, I would say, product availability issues with a lot of people stockpiling. So we were in this very uncomfortable position where many of our products were unavailable to our consumers. And not only that, there were a couple of cases that people had stockpiled and they started selling our products in places like eBay for a big premium, resulting into having our brands in big publications and adding into the centralization of the lockdown and the out-of-stock situations. We managed to launch our D2C in 6 days, and we managed to mitigate that risk of brand reputation. Now, we didn't launch in the 6 days because we gathered all of the employees and everybody to work 24 hours. It was the result of a little bit more than 2 year planning, architectural planning in our systems, in a way that we could enable this as a digital capability and unlock synergies between that proposition and all of our marketing investment. The good news is that by turning on that channel, a lot of the parents that were contacting us and couldn't find our product, either in retailers or online, they were able to get the product to their hands quite easily throughout the UK. But we were also able to bring back into the business incremental sales, because these sales wouldn't have come because of the out of stock. Now, what's interesting is that even though we did launch that channel as a risk mitigation proposition, it is a core part of our digital strategy. And it's kind of like a survive and defense mechanism, I would say. And that's because consumer behavior has changed. Maybe it has accelerated because of COVID and the pandemic, but overall it has been changing. Consumers have become a lot more tech savvy. And the way traditional companies, traditional FMCGs, like Danone, have been interacting with their consumers was to design this beautiful TV ad and then push the product through the retailers. But now consumers are consuming media in a different way. They are searching. They are even searching when they're watching TV. They're using the phone. They're looking for information. And their state of mind when they are searching, it's there to buy. And even if we're observing the traditional funnel, that has changed because now consumers' mind is about shopping a little bit more often than in the past. So what's the opportunity, I guess, for D2C and for brands, for companies like Danone? Mm-hmm. The other thing that consumers expect from us is personalized services. And D2C as a digital capability and not just as another sales channel can bring that personalized experience to a different level, even all the way to personalized, I would say, products. We've seen other FMCGs that have been doing that quite successfully already. L'Oreal is a great example.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I guess 6 days is remarkably quick. We've spoken to the likes of PepsiCo or who've done very similar quick turnarounds, and I think it's great you have had the infrastructure and agility to do that quickly. And I guess inherently there's two obvious next questions, like what are the big challenges that brands face, both from an internal and I guess an external perspective? You've outlined a little bit, but internally, what are the big challenges you had an experience when trying to do that?
First of all, I think it's right to address there are two types of challenges, internally and externally. And sometimes organizations as big, the internal challenges can be a lot stronger, and the internal resistance can be a lot stronger than the external adoption. I guess in our journey, what we have experienced is we had to design and propose a plan that architecturally was quite unique, and it demanded our digital capabilities to work collaboratively, but also we had to convince a lot of people. We had to bring with us the sales team and the operations team and the marketing team and the procurement team and the finance team to back this up. And of course, when you involve so many different teams, everybody has their own challenges. What are we going to communicate to our partners and our retailers? How are we going to position it? How are we going to include the additional, operations into our workload? Can we automate? From a digital perspective, I mean, we could navigate this through the people's relationship, but from a digital perspective, our main consideration was, are we building something that is future-proof, sustainable, and scalable? Because we didn't want to put all the investment in human hours and budget and deliver something that, if it was good, and it would be good because we are all thriving to design something and deliver it with excellence, we wouldn't be able to replicate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I guess the how has that rest of the business, what benefits have you seen from the rest of the business now that you've done that right? Because of course, you know, exactly as you said, by bringing in those other stakeholders is not just so that you could do it directly, but actually what we've seen certainly with other corporates, and we've just discussed this before, Anastasia, other parts of the business actually get significant benefit from the ability of creating that D2C channel.
Well, first and foremost, it was about the consumer experience. And it was about ensuring that we're there for our consumers, for the parents, and that was core to our mission. So we, through offering the D2C, and especially during a period of uncertainty, we remained true to our mission as Danone and as SN, Specialized Nutrition. The benefits, though, are beyond just that. Because we were able to collect the behavioral data and the transactional data, we were able to translate these analytics into insights about our consumer behavior, about the product and the preferences, and about the consumption of our product. So it goes beyond just the transaction and the buy into the product, all the way to, all right, how soon will the next purchase be? What is the lifetime value of the consumer? And then because of the architectural setup and because of the vision of customer centricity and customer experience, we have been able to use this data for more effective and more efficient media campaigns, more personalization, and connecting overall the path to purchase, what we call in the marketing industry.
Yes, that's absolutely right, and we've noticed that from other partners as well. And I'm conscious that we've got a couple of minutes, and it would be a really good time to bring in Percept in a minute. But before we do that, we've discussed about the importance of keeping Amazon and the likes of Amazon close, and actually, but obviously keeping your customer players. Can you talk a bit more about how brands defend and actually justify your position against players like that in the market?
Well, I think a little bit controversial. I think Amazon is a great partner, right? In a similar way that other retailers like Tesco and Ocado and Sainsbury's and all of the other retailers are great partners. Some of them have their strengths in different areas. Now, the question where strategically we are thinking, and I think any FMCG business is thinking, is around the power that Amazon is concentrating through collecting all the data. And Amazon is not just a marketplace anymore. It's not just an e-commerce player anymore. It's a big media partner. Now, you know, there are these anecdotes about how Amazon has managed to start putting their own private label products in people's baskets, replacing the branded ones with the private label, cheaper ones. And then I guess the question is, how can a strong brand defend themselves behind this type of tactics? And I think that by having a core data strategy and by having digital capabilities like D2C, brands can not only make consumers fall in love with them, but stay in that relationship. Because at the end of the day, consumers are buying into the branded experience, not just the product. And the relationship needs that type of experience to be prolonged. So yeah, strategically, the question is, what are the capabilities that any FMCG has in place in order to be in a position to define the relationship with Amazon rather than have Amazon leading the relationship?
Yeah, very good point. And I think we could go lots more on that, but I think this is actually a pretty good time to bring in Tom, the founder of Percept. Certainly when it comes to working with large players, Percept can be very helpful. Tom, over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Hi, everyone. So Percept delivers digital media quality assurance, and it's all about ultimately driving greater ROI from digital media investment. And as you know, digital media spend is enormous. So the next slide shows, these are hot off the press figures from the IAB for the UK for 2020, enormous amount spent. As you know, half of all advertising goes on digital. And I guess a really important point is you want to spend that money in the most efficient way possible, because the ROI on that spend is typically a multiple of the spend itself. For every pound you put in, you're expecting to cover that and make some money more on top. So you want to do a great job of it. In terms of what Percept does, to resort to a somewhat hackneyed iceberg analogy, typically everyone looks at the part of the iceberg above the water, which is easy to see, and that's the performance data, you know, your clicks, impressions, spend, conversions, etc., which you rightly care about. But ultimately, how much of that you get, the performance you get, is supported by and driven by how the underlying ad platforms are actually used, how they're structured, how you use keywords, making sure you're not bidding against yourself. There are gazillions of things under the water to do with driving good performance, which is what Percept analyzes. And in contrast to traditional ways of assessing under the water through manual digital media audits, which you would do with providers like, historically, people like a big two Accenture, Percept is running constantly checking this stuff to help drive better returns and ensure that you're doing all that you can do to get the most out of that huge media investment. Percept runs across multiple different channels, so all of those primary different areas of spend: paid search, paid social, and programmatic. It's accessed through a dashboard, but with a lot to it. It has many layers, many different levels of detail. So from a top level helicopter view, so that senior managers, CMOs, country managers can see at a glance, not just the performance they're getting across channels, but how well they're being executed and whether there are more opportunities to drive outcomes, all the way down to all the specific places where particular actions can be taken and recommended to drive better results. And that's what we do. A couple of super quick case studies. So the first one, performing on driving more performance. This is working with a big online estate agent, spending a few million on search annually. Through analysing their accounts and finding specific opportunities to improve, relatively modest improvements meant 96,000 additional leads for them at £10 per cost, £10 per lead cost. That's almost £1 million of additional value without them spending any more money on the media. It's through running the accounts more effectively. And actually the business value of those leads, back to that point about the ROI multiple, was £50 per lead. So there was £5 million of value for the brand there. We've been working with Vodafone for 4 years now across 20 markets. We were able to help them deliver an in-housing process successfully across those 20 markets. And the platform enables their in-market teams to do a fantastic job and drive performance and efficiencies, but also exposes that as a whole across all of their different channels and all of their markets for their global media team and their procurement arm. And so it's more of a sort of a corporate model of ensuring visibility, quality assurance, and enabling transformation and ownership, not just of digital media spend and visibility on it, but understanding how well it's being managed and driving better performance. So that's a super quick overview of what Percept does, and we'll leave up the slide with a couple of nice testimonials from clients. So
perfect, thank you. Perfect, Tom. Thanks so much. Anastasia, what are your thoughts?
Well, that looks great. I'm glad to see the results as well that you're sharing. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, I mean, ultimately, it's all about, it's the under the water part of the iceberg, right? That there are, particularly with big complex ad platforms, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, programmatic platforms, there are loads and loads of dials and levers, loads of different ways you can use the features of those ad platforms to drive outcomes, and particularly on big complex accounts. If those features aren't being used as effectively as possible, if you do, for example, end up bidding against yourself or not putting the search keywords in the ad copy, there are gazillions of things you can do that result in that spend kind of leaking away and not being as effective as possible. So being able to see all of that stuff and go and correct it very quickly enables you to drive higher outcomes from the spend. And like I say, there's this relationship between efficiencies. You know, you save a bit of money, but you don't take the money out. It's like having extra money to spend for free on your digital media. And typically the business outcomes on that investment are then a multiple of that. So being able to systematically do the best job possible can result in really significant outcomes, typically in many millions in the case of, you know, large spending, big multi-market, particularly multi-market, multi-brand groups.
It's not only efficiently delivering media, but also reinvesting in areas that drive more engagement and growth. That's
right. And so it's one of the new features actually we just released for Vodafone and in platform more generally now is providing those sorts of views in an integrated way across all of the different ad platforms. So instead of it all being sort of treated as separate silos, being able to understand where you're seeing the best outcomes, the best returns for your investment in those different channels, which is often quite varied. It can be quite complex across different markets or across different product types or certain clusters of products, etc. So being able to see all of that in one place at a high level and connect it all the way down to the gory details of where that's happening and where the results are happening or where the improvements can be driven is pretty powerful.
That's really good, Tom. And actually just launching up there, and we do run through these things quickly. I think it's actually a really good time to bring in Helen from Promotigo. Helen, I think it was really interesting in terms of the multiple markets that Danone work with and the different types of campaigns they will end up doing, both with direct to consumer and across different partners. Perhaps you can introduce a bit to Promotigo a little bit, and then we can talk to Anastasia about it.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. Digital promotions are becoming more and more important. And just as Anastasia was saying, we've seen a move online really speed up with COVID and the pandemic. It's a really great opportunity to get close to your customer and collect first-party data and talk to them later from remarketing or retargeting. But also the GDPR regulation that came in 2018 means that we all know that we need to do it well. So Promotigo has built a platform which takes all of the risk of promotional and data mismanagement by simplifying, scaling and securing the complex work of promotions, allowing brands to run campaigns securely and in a GDPR compliant way. What we notice is that all promotions have got really unique creative ideas at the front end, but in reality, the back end tech is very repeatable. Brands are wasting thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds each year building bespoke software and ending up with data in multiple systems in multiple places and multiple countries. So we have built a number of out-of-the-box mechanics with defined customer journeys. Do you want to just move on a slide, please, Alex? Brands can choose any one of these templates, but the platform is also really flexible. So we can add mechanics together or create bespoke user flows. We have a microsite in the box product where we can control the whole front end for you and host it. We have a plugin product, which means that we can put the user journey that you need into your website. And we have an API, which enables you to fully control your customer journeys and just send us data at the appropriate moment. We've worked across loads of big brands across the world, and we have new markets coming on board all the time. All of our data is held in Azure, which means that we can run run campaigns at scale, and all of our data resides in Europe for GDPR. I thought I'd put up three very simple case studies. So for Coke in December this year, because of the pandemic, they would normally have been out on the streets of London handing out Coke cans, but they couldn't do it. So we stood up in a few days for them, a microsite, used our integration to a fulfillment house to send out cans to people. With Bose, we run a cashback for them each year. It's a multi-territory campaign across 14 different countries with 12 different languages. We check receipts, we manage a whole postage, packaging and processing of products that are returned to the warehouse, and we pay everybody locally in their local currency. And finally, last year, we were also involved in helping PG Tips hand out 80,000 cups of tea. And we did that in the course of a weekend. People came to us and we gave them a personalised coupon, which they could either download from our Promotigo coupon solution, or if they didn't want to go back online, that they could request that to be posted to their home.
Great, Helen, thank you so much. That's I really like Promotigo, and I'm glad you clarified that you weren't actually handing physical cups of tea out. There could have been a lot of burns and scolding in those campaigns. And Anastasia, have you got any thoughts or particular questions for Helen?
Well, I guess I mean, this is highly relevant, right? In the current setup where we are walking towards the cookieless world, and FMCG brands are trying to collect first-party data on their own, especially for the brands that don't really have a reason to collect data. Being able to offer a sample or a price to your audience, it's a great way to start that engagement, start building that engagement. My question is, I mean, you said here that you can build these products and they're easily scalable. Has any of your clients built it in a larger scale, or are they just doing it for a particular, as part of a particular marketing campaign or an activation?
So a mixture. Some people come to us for a one-off campaign, but some we run all of their campaigns worldwide. What we tend to notice is that the really big campaigns are those that get shared on freebie sites, or there's a very good social message behind it, and that there'll be a lot of social media interest, which can also generate a lot of scale.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's right, Helen. And I'd also, I think what's interesting, Anastasia, on your point earlier about that people were trying to then sell products after sort of bulk buying them and selling them on independent sites. I think that what's interesting, if you're then running things like promotions and discounts that don't apply, is quite interesting. And what we've seen with Promotigo and some of the other brands that we've worked with is if you are doing those multiple campaigns in multiple regions, teams at the moment have all their own independent relationships on different Excel spreadsheets, different redemptions, different fulfillments, and it becomes very complex, very expensive, and actually more subject to more issues. Helen, maybe talk about the scaling part in that aspect, because that seems to be certainly really important for some of the bigger FMCG groups that you've worked with.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the use cases that we've helped big companies work through is that they have got data in multiple different systems. Promotigo has a lot of API integrations. So, for example, we have fulfillment houses that are linked up in different countries to meet different demand. And we also have an API so that a fulfillment house from somewhere else can get data from us rather than us sending data to it. And then the other integrations that we do a lot of is with regards to the CRM. So we're sending data back to one system so that there is much less of downloading data, exporting it, sharing it via WeTransfer, giving it to somebody else. It's much more of a secure data loop. Yeah.
And I guess the last point that we always try to make is that it's also much more cost efficient. So it saves a fair bit of money when bringing it all together.
Well, so we believe on average we're probably 50% cheaper than going down a bespoke route. Also, if you are running multiple campaigns with us, so they might look really, really different to all of your consumers, but actually it's the same thing in the background, then obviously there are economies of running in effect the same campaign many, many times.
Yeah, perfect. Well, excellent. So as we round up the session, I think it was really refreshing to hear a really strong stance and well-considered approach to e-commerce and engaging the modern consumer from Anastasia, from keeping the likes of Amazon close, but your customers even closer. And the importance of alignment and integration with our other areas of the business. But I think really importantly is still how important the brand experience is with the customers, even through those online channels for FMCG businesses. We then heard from Tom from Percept, who made his way back from a London lunch for this session. So thanks very much for that, Tom. From Percept, who can help you get clear visibility on paid search, paid social and programmatic activity to drive as much as double-digit savings, by the way. And Promotigo, who can help you run promotions and campaigns in scalable, secure and simple ways. If you've missed one of our previous sessions and would like to access a recording, please just let us know. Otherwise, make a note in your diaries for Thursday, the 20th of May, when we'll be joined by Head of Digital Strategy at Innovation at Marks and Spencer. Thanks to all our guests for giving us their time and wisdom, Anastasia, Helen, and Tom. Thanks again to all our sponsors, and thank you so much for joining. We'll see you at the next one.